I wanted to take a few moments to talk about negative comments and trolls and doubters. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't bother me that much, but I understand that it can upset an awful lot of people, and particularly when they're doing YouTube videos, and I thought it might be of interest really to talk about it a little bit and talk about my experience of it, because well, I think it might help. Now obviously my channel has nearly 100,000 subscribers and has had over 7 million views, so I've had a lot of people looking at me. Now when you have a few people looking at you, it's not really a worry, but when you have a lot of people looking at you, then things start to happen that follow patterns, and I thought my experience of this sort of stuff might actually help to people who are engaging in this, finding this happening to themselves and have never really come up against it before and are having difficulty with it. So I thought I'd share some of those ideas with you and some of that experience with you in the idea that that can help you. So don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about these things, I'm giving them an exemplar as a hope that that will help other people. So that's the idea of the video. Now when you deal with a mass of people, what happens is you find that they're statistically distributed, that they follow a binomial distribution, and you see the typical bell-shaped curve where the bulk of people sit in the middle of that curve. And that's the way it is on the channel. I have hundreds of thousands of comments, and the bulk of them are right in the middle. They tend to be helpful, suggestive, good hints, analytical, thoughtful comments, and they're very supportive actually. Even the ones that are critical in the middle of that curve that is meant to be supportive, and that's the bulk of the comments. But of course, we're people, and being people, what we tend to do is highlight on the negative, and we get that small proportion of negativity completely out of control in our heads, and we concentrate on that. So we have this bell-shaped curve with the bulk of people in the middle, and there's always going to be some bell ends. I'm sorry, I could not resist that joke. And in that end is what we tend to focus on. Now if you have a look at my videos, you'll see I have on average about 5,000 views a video. It's normally around about 500 likes and normally around about 5 or 7 dislikes. That's pretty common for a video for me. Those few dislikes represent a very small percentage, a very small proportion of the people who are watching the videos and making the comments. The 1 or 2 negative comments represent a very small proportion. So the first thing really is, to be honest, get it in proportion. Have a look at the good as well as the bad. So when you see this kind of stuff and you see a comment or two, don't worry about it. There's always going to be something like that. Somebody somewhere, if you say something and enough people see it, are going to dislike it. It's the way it is. And somebody somewhere is going to tell you you're doing it wrong. That's okay. That's their view of things. Because when people make a comment about you, they of course don't really know you. All they really know is what they see in front of the YouTube screen, and they assume they know you, but they don't know you. So when they're talking, they're not talking about you, they're talking about themselves. It's what they would do. Of course, most people don't have the balls to get up and do a video, so it's what they would do from the secrecy of behind the computer screen. Now there's a theory that magnifies the nastiness of people, and fair enough. But they're still only talking about themselves. Now the thing is, you can't control what other people do. Other people are going to do whatever. And given enough people, all kinds of craziness happens. You can't control that. You can only control your responses to it. And that's what you have to highlight on. You have to highlight on how it is that you respond to these things. And a gauge of being able to respond to those things is the proportion of which that is good minus negative. So don't just concentrate on the negative, concentrate on the bulk of things, and think about what you're going to do, not what this other person wants you to do, because this other person is really just talking about themselves and not about you. Now, this came to light really a while ago when somebody was talking about whether I'm a scientist or not, and that made me laugh really, because of course the word science, we think it means something, and To different people, it means different things in the same way, remember, that it's a distribution. So when people talk about science, they're talking about what they think is science. So when they look at what I do and say, he's not a scientist, they're not saying I'm not a scientist, they're saying I don't follow their rules of science. Now, in my mind, science is a specific thing. It's a methodology of world exploration. That's what I think science is. So when I look at what I do, I think, yeah, I'm a scientist, that's what I'm doing. But other people think means something else about science. Some people, right at the end of that bell curve, think science is a religion, where they are the gatekeepers and the guardian of science as a religion. And sure, I don't think like that, so in their terms, I'm not a scientist. No way. But I'm happy with that. I don't believe that you should hoard knowledge and you should only have access to it if you do the things that help you join the club. That's fine by me. But if you think that science is open to all and a method for investigating the world that absolutely anybody could do if they apply themselves, then yes, I'm a scientist, and I think everybody is a scientist if they do that. And so being a scientist or not is an interpretive term. It's not something that's strict and known. It's something that different people think different things about. So when they criticize me for not being a scientist, they're really just saying I'm not following what they think. And it's the same thing with all of these comments. When these comments are made, people are really not talking about you. They're talking about themselves. And that's the thing to concentrate on, the thing to understand. People talk an awful lot about themselves and very little about anything else. It's a shame, but it's the way it is. So when you look at the comments and you model them in terms of, where they stand on this positive, negative line, what it is the person's actually saying, we begin to realise quite quickly that there's not a lot you can do about that. Certainly don't worry about it. If you have faith in what you're doing and you have a belief in what you're doing, get on and do it. It'll toughen you up, certainly, having these comments, because it can be brutal. But if you can put some balance into there, then you can in your own mind, toughen up a little bit to accept the fact that it doesn't matter what you do. Somebody somewhere is going to say you're doing the wrong thing. And that's okay. There's another comment, or a series of comments, that have sort of come up every now and then about me, and that is I'm not creative. I don't create things. I just copy what other people do. And I think that's actually very valid, because that's what we do. That's what it's about. When you're thinking of something new, you're not going to have a brand new idea that springs into your head. What you do is you have a look around to see what other people have done before you. So you'll have a look and see what there is, and then you'll build a tiny little bit on that. All of us stand on the shoulder of giants. Nobody has a brand new idea that springs from nowhere. If you do, it's probably not going to work. If you have a look around you and have a think about it, see what other people have done, see how they've approached the problem, and moderate it just a little bit so that you can make something different and new. To me, that is what creativity is. Creativity isn't a sudden inspiration of ideas. Creativity is reading what everybody else has done, following it, and standing on the shoulders of giants. All of us do that. An awful lot of the stuff that I put on the videos are just replications of other people's papers. I used to put the paper reference in the description box, as it happens. I stopped doing that because it was just a bit tiresome to do, but an awful lot of it is just from reading other people's papers and seeing how I can change it into a way that can be done in the kitchen for you, because it's a YouTube channel. And that was the objective of those videos. So when somebody writes and says, he's just copying other stuff, I think, yeah, I am. Because they're not writing to say he's just copying other stuff. They're writing to try to put themselves forward as being important. And that's a little sad, because they don't do their own YouTube channel to do that, but they still need to do that. So rather than getting angry at comments like that, I actually feel a little bit of sorrow for those kind of people. So in your thought process, if you can look at what it is that the commenter is doing and why that commenter is doing, 9 times out of 10 you'll actually just feel sorry for them. And that will help you cope with, I think, it'll help you cope with negative comments that you might get. So hopefully these kind of suggestions on how to deal with negativity when you're doing YouTube channel videos and you get those negative comments and dislikes help. And that's the intention of the video. So I hope it was of interest, and thank you very much for watching.